So since there's a lot of negativity on the news, it feels like every day we're waking up to a new historical event and having to live through it. I decided to ask my community how they were feeling, and a lot of people were saying that they felt despair, that they felt unhappy. I wanted to give you guys some quick life advice on how I got through it. Talk to you about one of the darkest moments in my life and how I overcame it. There's not going to be a lot of editing to this one, so it's mostly a background kind of noise or to listen to while you're doing something else. So for those who don't know, in 2020, I broke my back. In my 20s, it was one of the worst times ever. The story around it is kind of crazy. I was in my 20s. I was athletic. I was not like crazy strong, but I was good amount of strong. I was up there, and I decided to deadlift one day. It wasn't even a lot of weight. I don't even know why it happened. I had a history of back injuries, so it was kind of the needle on the haystack. Anyway, I went up to pull up the lift, perfect form, and I hear a pop, and immediately the worst pain in my life. I swear to you, it felt, when I imagine what anime characters feel like before like the final battle, like when they're all beaten up and everything, that's how I felt like in that moment. Like it was some of the worst pain I've ever felt. I literally felt like Gojo at the end. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but that's how I felt. I felt like I was almost snapped. I felt like, oh my God, like the Among Us meme, like where they don't have a back anymore. That's how I felt. Oh, it was horrible. But immediately a huge surge of pain. Like, oh my God, I couldn't even walk. I couldn't bend over. Like I couldn't even do anything but lay down and have my feet up. Like for 2 days, I couldn't walk basically. And then slowly the pain started to go away, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm getting better. Like this is an amazing thing. But no, actually the pain was going away because I was losing feeling in my legs and I was about to be paralyzed. Sooner or later, I realized like, oh, hey, like I'm losing feelings in my legs. Let me get out of this situation. It's not a good situation to be in. Maybe I should go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor. I went to the ER. But this was 2020. So during 2020, you couldn't have any visitors because of the whole panoramic. So we were in basically lockdown. So the doctor came in, they ran a bunch of tests. They were like, hey, so obviously you're about to be paralyzed. We don't know why that is. So just sit here in a dark room, pitch black, by yourself with a bunch of beeps and boops and beep, and we'll leave you alone. And we'll tell you what's happening. And just so you know, before I leave, you literally might not ever walk again. And then he left. So I was alone with my thoughts in this dark room, no visitors. Again, 2020, sitting there, no friends. I was really overweight at the time period. I started going bald literally the day before. I noticed that I was losing my hair. Literally just a bunch of bad things happening at that one point. Literally the worst point in my life. Darkest moment in my life. Literally darkest moment because I was in a pitch black room. Anyway, but the reason I overcame that, instead of like staying that moment of like, hey, you might not ever walk again. Hey, you can't do all these things that you imagine that you would do. And you're like 21, 22. I forget what it was. 21, 22. And hey, you might not do anything. You might not carry your wife down the wedding aisle. You might not run ever again. You might not even walk ever again. You might not even be able to lift or do anything ever that. Hey, you might not even be able to work again. Your mom might have to take care of you for the rest of your life. Like those in your 20s. It's crazy even now thinking about it. But instead of thinking about those things, I didn't let myself think about those things. Instead, I thought about a future. I've created a future in my mind that was better, that was fun, that was something I wanted to live with. In that room, I wasn't trapped in that room. I was creating a way out for myself, a different reality to live in, a different future that I could live in that was better than the one that I was currently in. I had a choice to make. Do I sit here in a pitch black room and think about how I'm a shell of a man, how I'll never accomplish anything, how my dreams and future aspirations are shattered? Or do I place myself in a better situation, imagine something better? Do I imagine myself working out again or carrying my wife down the wedding aisle? And I chose to imagine a better future in that entire year because it took a long time to recover. I was never in the present. I was always imagining a better place, imagining a better future. I got up, I accomplished that goal and to make that better future, but I was never present. I was never in the moment, if that makes sense. Some people think that this is bad, and I'll talk about that in a second, but I don't really believe that. I love humanity. I love being human. And that's the thing I love the most, is that unlike any other animal, we can create a future for ourselves. I love my dog. She's amazing. She's smart and she has her personality. She has feelings, but I don't think that she imagines a future where she's doing something else. I think she just lives her day to day and reacts to the situation. I don't think humans are like that. I think that the difference between humans and like a stone is that the stone can't imagine a different reality for itself. Now, somebody in the comments are going to be like, well, actually dolphins can do that. Okay, fine. create their own version of realities in their heads, envision a future that is better than the one that they're currently in. And that's so amazing to me. And people don't focus on that. People focus on the negative. People only take the negative serious. You see this all the time. I'll use climate change, for example. If I was like, well, actually, there's no point in recycling anymore because climate change is irreversible. Our planet will be uninhabitable by 2100. I am so intelligent. And I gave the worst take, the pessimistic take about life and how things will end up. People would be like, wow, you're such a deeply serious person. Oh my God, let me clap for you. Let me subscribe to your YouTube channel. Oh my God, you're Snap, like whatever they're doing. Oh my God, you're literally so intelligent. But if I came on here and I was like, hey, in 5 to 20 years, somebody might realistically solve climate change. They might figure out a solution, a more efficient way to do carbon capture or turning carbon into plastics that are recyclable. People would say that I'm a deeply unserious person, that I'm not worth listening to, that I don't know what I'm talking about. I need to research this more. They love saying that, my comments especially, because optimism is not taken seriously. So you have a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, who are not very intelligent people, who give the most negative take ever, the most nihilistic doomerism take ever. And everybody thinks that this person is super intelligent. Oh my God, you're super, like, thank you for telling me the truth. Thank you. And they start snapping and they're like, oh my God, wow, amazing. But that person doesn't know what they're talking about. But it's taken seriously. The weird thing about people nowadays is that they default to negativity as the intelligent take. I don't know why this happens. And so let's use AI, for example. I'm not a fan of AI, but you have to give some of it some credit, right? So in 2020, if you said, hey, there's going to be these massive language models that can help you with homework that a lot of people are using to automate like half of their jobs or to finish a lot of the code that they were working on or to autocomplete a lot of the things that they were working on, people wouldn't believe you. They would be like, that's not true. That's not like a real thing. Oh my God, actually, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm a leading AI researcher. We're like 40 years away from. And if you said that, people wouldn't take you seriously. But if you gave a pessimistic take, a nihilistic take, well, actually, it's going to take us 100 years to even do this one thing. And actually, I'm so smart and I get paid and I went to this elite college and people were like, wow, you're so intelligent. Thank you for sharing with us. Like, again, it's just a default to the worst case scenario or the worst outcome. And people think that they're so intelligent. But that's not true. You know, there's plenty of good things that are happening all the time. There's advancements in medical research all of the time. There's advancements in everything all of the time. Things are happening all of the time. And I think that's one of the reasons that my takes age so well is because I can imagine a future that is better, but I can also imagine a future that is worse. A lot of people just default to the nothing ever happens, nothing changes, nothing means anything, don't do anything in life. And they can't imagine a different situation. And that's why a lot of their takes are bad. I told people that Gen Z were becoming more conservative. People couldn't imagine this. This was a future that they couldn't imagine. They couldn't conceive that this was a possibility, but it was. And I said it before everybody else because it makes sense to me. Like I can imagine that happening. It's not unbelievable I'm open to the idea of that happening. A lot of people aren't. They closed their mind to that possibility, that reality. They watched 59,000 video essays about leftism and they think everybody else, let me stop and be toxic. But my point is that just like how Gen Z becoming more conservative was imaginable to me, the next generation solving climate change or solving world hunger or doing anything, that's entirely possible to me. Things can change rapidly. Cultures can change rapidly. Everything around us can change in a very short time. And people don't realize that. Like people are stuck in this, like nothing ever happens, or when stuff happens, it's only negative, or it's only negative in the ways that I think it can be negative. It's really not that good. But that's my tip. That's my advice. I could go on and on about this. This happens so much in like so many different realms of existing, right? You know, just like how people told me I was crazy because I said Gen Z is more conservative than people believe. People say I'm crazy for being optimistic about climate change or other problems that we're facing, that I think that humanity is awesome, that I love other people in my country, that I think that other people in my country are good people foundationally, that maybe they disagree with me, but eventually maybe they will. You know, people are like, you're not a serious person. Actually, well, I'm the serious person. I hate everyone and I think everything's going to be bad all the time. I'm so serious. And I just don't, that way of living, I don't think is really good for yourself. I don't think putting yourself in these negative spaces, like you turn on the news all the time. You turn on the news and it's bad thing after bad thing after world event after world event. And you're like, dang, man, like, you get stuck in the reality that is currently, instead of thinking of ways, like, take climate change, for example. Hey, people don't understand climate change. I need to envision a new way to talk to them, to communicate to them about why climate change is important. Even that, like, people were like, nobody will listen to you about climate change ever. There's no point. Well, you're not imagining a future that people will listen to you about climate change. You're not imagining a way to communicate to them about listening or communicate to them, hey, this is climate change. Hey, this is how it's going to affect you. Hey, why don't you believe it? You're not trying different ways of communication, trying different methods of reaching out to people, to talk to people. You're stuck in this, nothing ever happens, nothing will change, nothing matters, not this nihilistic viewpoint. You think that you're the most intelligent person ever to exist, but that's not true. Things change all the time. You know, if I'm not going to make this too political, but if conservatives thought that way, Gen Z would have never shifted conservative. If conservatives threw their hands up in the air and was like, well, I can't imagine a way to have a conversation with Gen Z where they would appreciate conservative values or traditional values or whatever. You wouldn't have women like Nara Smith. You wouldn't have women like Nara Smith they wouldn't have did as well as they did in the election recently, but they did imagine it. They actually spent billions of dollars trying to figure out ways to communicate to Gen Z to get them to be more conservative. That's the future of imagining. That's the power of imagining a different future. It can be bad, but it can also be good. I'm so confused why people disagree with this. Like, do you think people who change the world imagine the world as it is, or do they imagine a world that is better and try to change it that way? So, and this is what scientists do. I'm STEM, so I could speak on this a little bit. When I'm coding, when I'm in Blender, when I'm in Unreal Engine and I have to learn how to code to fix this one thing in my 3D animation, you know, I have to envision a different future. Even to create the art in the first place, I have to envision it. I have to create it. I have to go out and do it. I have to see it in my mind's eye. You know, and I'm living in that. I'm not living in my room currently. I'm living in an open field and Unreal and like the trees and like the wind and like, you know, I'm living in a different reality almost. I have to create this art or to code this new project that my boss wants. I have to envision it first. So when people who are creating different things, they have an idea and they go out and test it and they try to change it and they try to make it better. They try to make the world better. That is, you know, they're living in that space, and that's why they can be optimistic. That's why they can be this ray of sunshine in the darkest of times, because they're not living in that dark time. They're living in a future that they create. And my hope is this advice helps you just at least somewhat, just to stop being stuck in the moment. You know, go outside, envision somewhere that you're on vacation in Italy, or envision that you're hanging out with your friends, and then make steps to happen. And then suddenly you're in Italy, or you're with your friends, or, you know, maybe you're married one day, or maybe you leave that toxic relationship. You can envision it. That is in your power. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Click here for the next one. Have a great day. Peace.